Hi everyone, welcome to Zenith Workouts. I'm Rebecca Libby, and today we are going to take a different approach, I guess. This is not so much of a workout as maybe a bit of a tutorial on how to keep your knees happy. And I'll start by saying that really anything you do to make your hips happy, it's going to increase your knee happiness, and then anything that you do to make your ankles and your feet happier are also going to help increase your knee happiness. So a lot of our other workouts, we work on strengthening the hips and getting more mobility or more flexibility in the hips. That's always going to be beneficial for the knees. And same with the ankles. Like we do a fair amount of footwork and strengthening. We'll do a couple of, relatively new things today that might for the ankles and the feet, but we'll mostly focus on things that are a little bit specific to the knees that just might help if you've got some old knee injuries or maybe a little bit of early arthritis that's causing some restrictions to get them moving a little better. I have a chair as a prop because you will need to sit for a couple of these. You don't need one with a back if you have like just a nice hard sturdy stool or table to be on. I have my blue mini stability ball, but you don't need that. If you will need something to put between your ankles. So if you have a pillow that you can fold in half and do that to give yourself a little bit of resistance between the ankles, or another soft ball. And then you can use your mini stability ball for this, but in case you don't have that, I have a rolled up towel that I've just put some painting, some green frog tape around. You could also use a soup can, like one of the big ones, diced tomatoes or apple juice or whatever, with maybe a towel around it for a little padding, but something just roughly about that size, because you're going to put that behind your knee when we're down on the mat in a minute. But right now you just need you and the chair, and we're going to do a little bit of work for our ankles. And in some of our other workouts, we work on getting that bend of the ankles, that flexion, where we hold the spine nice and vertical, and then as we breathe in, we imagine sliding, that neutral spine down the imaginary wall behind you, and then pressing back up. And that's a really nice way. If you keep your pelvis right under you and don't let it pop out behind you, you should feel that usually as a restriction in the ankles. That's what eventually limits you from getting deeper. But sometimes a squat like this will bother people's knees. So today, instead of doing that, we're going to just do an active stretch for the ankle that takes the ankle into that same direction. And we'll do it by just holding the chair lightly for balance and I'm going to start with my right leg, placing the right leg behind you. And you're going to choose how far you put it behind you, because you'd like to put it far enough behind you that when you put your heel down, you feel a little stretch in the back of the calf, in the gastroc muscle. So, if you don't feel it here, keep going back, keep going back, keep going back until when you put your heel down in contact with the mat, and you can have a little bit of weight in the front leg, it's not all weight in the back leg, you feel that stretch in the back of the lower leg. And from there, we're going to do a few repetitions. We're going to breathe in and lift the heel. Exhale, lower the heel, keep it connected to the mat and the knee straight, and then just see if you can shift forward a little bit with your body, with your pelvis, to increase that length, that sensation of stretch in the calf. Breathe in to raise up, and exhale to sink the heel, to keep that connection to the floor with the heel. Keep a presence in the heel as you lean forward a little bit. And if you gain a lot, you might have to wiggle that front leg forward so that you're comfortable in that forward knee. And we'll do 2 more. Exhale to sink the heel. See if you can keep the heel down while you lean forward a little more, not breaking at the waist. It's got to be a lean forward with the whole body, keeping the pelvis underneath you. And last time, lift the heel, sink the heel, and see if you can shift forward, thinking about the pelvis shifting forward so that you feel more of a stretch in that back leg. From here, you can stay there, or you could wiggle the foot in just a little bit. I find it easier to do with less of a long stride length. And we're going to keep the heel down, but we're going to bend the knee. So you're going to think about almost like you're thinking about bringing your shin to the floor. So a nice breath in. And as you breathe out, You're going to bend the knee, and you can have some weight in the back leg, but you also have some weight in the front leg too, just to make it more comfortable. And this will change the stretch for you. This you probably should feel as maybe a length in the lower leg, or maybe even a bit of pinch in the, not pinch, but you might feel it directly in the ankle joint. And then straighten the knee, ease out of it. On your next exhale, bend that back knee again, right? And then straighten it up and bend that back knee. Maybe you can put a little more weight into it, ask a little more of it. Maybe it's already saying, no, that's enough. And so you just listen to it. You do what feels right. Perfect. So make that one your last one there. Straighten and come out of it. And we'll just do the other side. So place left leg behind you. We'll do the straight leg version first, where you feel the stretch more in the upper calf, upper part of the lower leg. So get a nice stride length where you feel that stretch with the heel down, and then just hold the chair lightly for balance. Take a breath in and raise the heel. So this gets us a little bit of length in our toes, which is nice, and then place the heel down. And if you feel the stretch right there, you don't have to do anything else. But as you repeat it, breathe in and raise up, exhale and raise down, or press down with the heel. If you start to feel that the stretch just is not as intense, or it feels like you can go a little deeper, then you can start to shift forward with the pelvis, with the whole body, to feel that more intense in the back leg. Lift the heel and press it back down. And you don't have to hold stretches for a long time usually our muscles are not truly short. You don't have to sit there and hold for 20 to 30 seconds, unless your physio has advised you to or something, for a reason. Usually it's just that you just need to get into that movement and get the length in the connective tissue, and that doesn't necessarily come by holding it. Sometimes that comes by moving in and out of it. So that's your last one with the leg straight. Move the leg in a little bit if that makes you more comfortable, as it does me. Heel is on the ground, and the heel stays on the ground while you exhale and bend the knee, as if you're going to bring your shin down to the top of your foot, or down towards the floor. And just see how does that compare to the other side. If you have an old ankle injury, it might be quite dramatically different. Straighten up and do it again. And just a couple more times. You can hold it if it feels better for you, or I like to move in and out of it. That's the way my body seems to respond best to the stretch. So you can try both ways and pick which way your body prefers. Make that one your last one though, whether you're holding it or moving in and out of it. Straighten the leg and move in. And then we're going to do a little bit of lengthening for our quadriceps, or the front fascia, front connective tissue of the thighs. And here I'm actually going to, if you don't need the chair for balance, I'm going to get you to turn your chair around. Or actually, that's not going to work for me. I'm too tall for this. I would like you to have something in front of the thighs, so that when you bend the knee, that'll work for me. You don't bring the knee forward. You really want something to let you know that you've kept the knees together. So you don't absolutely need the chair, but just something to give you a little guidance there. So I'm going to use the chair. And you're going to just stand, shift your weight into your left leg, and get ready to bend the right. But keep the knees pressed nicely together, and keep that pelvis nice and still, right? So that as you bend your knee, as if you're going to bring your heel up towards your bum, there's no bend at the pelvis or hip, right? And there's none of that knee coming forward. It's truly just a bend of that knee alone. And then you're going to pulse it for 3. So it's ease off a bit. 3, 2, 1, and straighten it out. And we'll do 3 of them. We'll do 2 more. And this one you might not feel a whole lot. 3, 2, 1. But if you're tight, you will feel it. And also you might feel it as a bit of cramping in that back hamstring, because you're working that muscle. Bend the knee, and 3, 2, 1, and release it down. We'll do the other side, because you're working that muscle in a short range. So bend the knee, bring that heel up towards your bum. Note a difference side to side. And when you get all the way bent, ease off a little bit for 3, for 2, for 1. And straighten it out. Just take a little moment break. And we'll do 2 more. Just making sure that those knees stay side by side, whether you have the chair like I do or not. And you're also trying to keep that foot directly behind you. Chances are it's not sneaking out to the side, but maybe, just be aware. And last time, bend the knee as if you're going to bring the heel towards your bum. Keep that pelvis nice and neutral, almost the thought of tucking the tailbone forward. And then it's 3, 2, 1, and release it down. Good, good. From here, you're going to sit in your chair. And it's ideal for this one if your chair is a little higher and you don't touch the floor with your feet, or you barely touch the floor, but you can make do with what you have. And you're going to sit. You can support yourself up against the back of the chair, or like I said, you don't need to. But what you'd like to be very aware of is that you have a little space behind your low back and the chair. You have your neutral spine. Because I have my mini ball between the ankles. You can use your pillow or anything there to squeeze. And we're going to straighten both knees. And what I'd like you to watch for is that you don't lose that position of the spine. If you're tight in the hamstrings, your back might want to round so that you can fully get the knees straight, but you don't want that. You're going to use your core. You're going to think of that length in the front of your spine. You're going to think of physically keeping a little space behind your low back and the chair back. If you don't have the chair there, just think of keeping that neutral spine. Take your breath in. On your out breath, I want you to squeeze in on the ball first and try to feel the inner knees or the inner thighs. A little bit active there. And then on your exhale, you're going to straighten both knees. And you're only going as far as you can keep that neutral spine. So for me, I'm a little shy. I'm not fully straight in my knees yet. And release. As I warm up, I'll probably be able to get there, but you might not at first, right? Exhale to straighten. You feel that, in the inner thighs and also the inside of the knees. You're working some of what we call the medial quadriceps and the inside fascia connective tissue of the knees. Sometimes this improves the tracking of the kneecap or how it sits in the groove. So it should be a comfortable exercise. I want you to hold this one out at your straightest point. Look at that shake a little bit. And then I want you to squeeze in on the ball for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Lower it down. We're going to do 2 more like that. And don't worry about getting the knees straight. Worry about the position of your spine. Once you're there, 6, 5, 4, little pulse, 3, 2, 1, lower it down, and last one. And you should feel this a little bit in those inner thighs and the inner knees. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lower it down. Good. So done with that mini ball for a minute. I'm going to face you for this one. I hope you can see. Because this one is a bit of rotation at the knees. So this is what we call accessory movement at the knees, because the prime movement that the knee does is it straightens and it bends. That's what we think of the knee as doing. But there's also some rotation of the lower leg bone against the thigh bone, the femur. So I'd like for the first one to start with the feet right together. See if you can get the knees right together. And I want you to put your hands on your knees because you're going to keep them there. You're not going to let them move. You're going to keep your heels still on the floor right underneath your knees. And then with your tall posture, I'd like you to move your feet into a little V, but not by moving your knees apart at all. And then pull it back together. And open into a little V. And pull the feet back in together, right? So the knees can't move apart. Otherwise, it's not rotation at the knee joint that you want to achieve. So knees have to stay together. And you move the feet into a little V and you pull them back together. So the heels are staying together, the toes move apart, the toes come together. And the hands on the knees are nice. You can even press the knees together so they stay there. I don't mind. But what you'll see is that you're getting a little bit of rotation outward of the tibia on the femur bone And that's an important motion to be able to have. We'll do 2 more like this. And if you find that this is hard or different one side to the other, you could always make it part of your daily routine, just to do like 8 or 10 of them. Make that one your last one though, and then move the feet into your V just to get there. Widen the heels to match the toes, so you're in parallel. And now we're going to move the toes together while the heels stay apart. So your knees are now a little wider, your heels are wide. You're still going to try to keep the knees still. And then you're going to pull the toes in together, sort of like pigeon toe, and then back to parallel. Move the toes together, that's a little stiff on one side, and back to parallel. So this is rotation the other way at that knee joint. And once again, this is something sometimes we lose when we've had a knee injury or we start to get a little bit of arthritis in the knee. So let's just do 2 more like that. Pulling the toes together, keeping the heels still, placing the feet back in parallel, and this is your last one, moving together, and feet back in parallel. Good. So you're done with your chair. We're going to do 1 more exercise where you, actually 2 more, but one where we come down to the mat. So done with chair. The one on the mat, and you could do this on a bed or a couch, you don't really need your mat for it, is what physios will refer to as a quad overroll. But it's working the front thigh muscle, and ideally, you probably don't want to be sitting up totally upright. You could be back on your elbows if you want to see what you're doing, or you could even lay right back on your back. And I'm just going to prop up on the elbows because I'd like you to fine-tune this today. So I'd like you to start with your rolled up towel or your mini ball or whatever you have, your can, behind your thigh. Not right behind the knee, but more just behind the very, very lower part of the thigh. The toes are going to face straight up. And without lifting the weight of your thigh off of the roll, I'd like you to lift the lower leg, lift the foot by squeezing the front of the thigh, and then lower it down. And you're trying to get the knee as straight as you can in that moment. So the toes are facing straight up here. You can always use your nice out breath. Raise and lower. Extend and lower. And we'll just do 3 more like this. Because again, if you find that you can't get the knee all the way straight, or there's some weakness there, or you're just, saying this is a weird movement, my knee doesn't like to do it, then you can practice, you can put it in your daily routine, right? Good. And then from there, you're going to try to keep the thigh still, and you're going to let the toes turn out slightly. So that rotation that we just worked on when we were sitting. So now I'm trying to keep my kneecap facing straight up, my thigh still, and I've turned the toes just out a little bit. And now I'm going to work on that again. I'm just going to do 6. Straightening and lower. Straight and lower. And you'll feel maybe, it's subtle, but now you're working more the inside part of your thigh. The inside part of that front muscle, the inside part of your quadricep. And I lost count, of course. Let's do 1 more. Good. And then lower down, center the foot. And now still trying to keep the thigh still. I want you to turn the toes inward. And that's a smaller motion. You don't have usually as much rotation inward, but try that. Try to still keep the kneecap facing the ceiling though, and straighten there. And that you'll feel more on the outside part of the quadricep. And again, it's subtle, but it's a sort of important little critical, subtle movement. And again, you're trying to get the knee all the way straight. You can hold it if it feels good, or just move in and out of it. Good. And then the last one on this side. Perfect. And lower it down. Move to have the other leg. I'll straighten that one. The other leg on the towel. And toes straight up towards the ceiling. Straightening the thigh and lowering it back down. Straightening the thigh and straightening the knee, squeezing the thigh and lowering it back down. And you're trying to say, like, yeah, does that feel the same as the other side? Does the knee get as straight? I can get a little bit of hyperextension, a little bit beyond straight with my knee, and that's okay. It's still a movement I want to control when I'm walking or moving, but it's okay to work it in that range. If you've had an injury, you might, maybe you don't even get the thigh and the shin bone, the tibia bone in line, and that's okay as long as you're going to your limit. Good. Lower down, and now turn the toes out to the side a little bit, but you try to keep the thigh still. So it's not this big rotation out in the thigh. Kneecap still tries to face the ceiling. Toes turn out as much as you can. And then we'll lift for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Lower down. And then thigh stays still again. Turn the toes inward as best you can. And straighten for 6, for 5, for 4, for 3. And try to feel that more as strengthening on the outside of the thigh. But it's good either way. Lower it down. Good. And then your last movement, you're going to come back up to standing. And this is just a little bit of, improving the adaptability of the knees, improving the knees' ability to move in combination of directions. So you're going to bend the knees just a little bit, just subtly, right? And you're going to have your weight right over the feet. So balls of your feet and heels. You're going to try to keep your upper body still, your hips relatively still, your pelvis, and then you're going to try to circle the knees. And you could put the hands on the thighs to sort of guide that if you want. But what you'd like is the feet are staying on the mat, not lifting too much, and you're asking the knees, how big of a circle can you do, right? Your circle might be really tiny if there's not a lot of that combined movement at the knees, right? But the more you have that combined movement and the more you can control it, then if your knee gets put in that position because you stepped in a pothole, you can reverse your circle now. Because you step in a pothole or you step off a curb funny, unexpected, or you get hit a little bit, then at least your knee has a better opportunity of absorbing that impact and adapting because it's familiar with the combined movement, I guess, and has some strength in those positions. Do one more circle in this direction. And it's not a super controlled, my hips are moving a little bit, that's fine, but it's just the intention is the circle of the knees. So there you go. Those are just some odd little but helpful knee exercises and movements that you can do to maybe increase the happiness of your knees. All the other things that I mentioned, like the hip strengthening, those are included in other videos, so keep up the good work on those ones. And yeah, see if any of those exercises were really hard, especially the seated rotation one, and sneak them into your daily routine for a bit and see if it makes a difference. So, all right, thanks for tuning in. See you next time.